Julia Tegelier's work has appeared in The Writer, Potomac Review, Gargoyle Magazine, Washington Independent Review of Books, and numerous anthologies. Winner of the 2015 William Faulkner Literary Competition for Best Short Story and the 2017 Writers Center Undiscovered Voices Fellowship, Julia completed her MA in writing at Johns Hopkins University. She serves as an editor with the Baltimore Review and recently founded the Montgomery County Underground Community Reading Series, which showcases the work of DMV area writers at quarterly public readings. Follow her at julia@justscribbling.com. Julia, welcome.
Well, thank you, Michael. Welcome everybody to our all poetry event this evening. I'm so excited to have all of our readers here. And so just as a reminder, in case any of you logged on to social media for MoCo Underground earlier today and were confused, I put a message out. We had a reader who was going to join us tonight, Kalisa Ray, but I messed up. That was totally my bad on putting the wrong date in an email to her. So she's going to be joining us later in the spring, but not tonight. Tonight we are just delighted to welcome, and please correct me if I don't get your names pronounced correctly so that I'm saying them correctly. We have Sofia Fey. Wonderful. We have Jason B Crawford. We have Beth Gordon. Lannie Stabile. Is that... No, you can't just nod.
It's really close. Stabile.
Stabile, yeah. Stabile, okay, good. And Elizabeth Hazen? Perfect. Now, do you go by Liz or Elizabeth?
Liz.
I see Liz on your screen and Elizabeth in your bio. I want to make sure that we're all
comfortable. I mean, either one.
I go by anything. Hey, you usually at home. So thank you very much for joining all of our readers tonight. We have a great event, and Michael Sanchez, who is representing the Sandy Spring Museum tonight for us, is going to be moderating. Well, he'll be in the background being our guru because I'm technologically incompetent, and he'll be making sure everything runs super smoothly for us. So he's going to kick off the evening for us with a brief statement by the museum, and then we will get this show on the road. Michael?
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome and thank you for attending. During these very difficult times that we have experienced as individuals and as a country, Sandy Spring Museum too has experienced challenges, grappling with the role we play in a system that benefits some at the expense of others. Sandy Spring Museum stands firmly with those fighting against the racism, structural disadvantages, and systematic injustice that have oppressed Black people in the United States for hundreds of years. The United States was built on discriminatory practices that were codified in our legal system, beginning with the dehumanization of Native people, followed by enslaving Black people in bondage as property for the financial benefit of those of white European ancestry. Sandy Spring Museum stands on land that was once a plantation where Black people were enslaved. We recognize that the museum is the beneficiary of a historically unjust system. We are committed to working toward dismantling systems that perpetuate racism and discrimination in order to build a just, equal society. Tonight's program is one of many programs that we host that challenges the dominant narrative. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. So as we are going through the readings tonight, please feel free to put comments and questions in the chat. And but please do keep your microphones muted while each reader is reading. But I would absolutely encourage you to, once each reader finishes reading, please unmute and clap for them, or you can snap your fingers or do jazz hands, whatever. You can click the little clap emoji down at the bottom. Just show your appreciation in some way. And without further ado, then we will get started with our program. Our first reader tonight, and hopefully it's not going to surprise them, is Sophia Faye. Are you up for that, Sophia? Sophia Faye is a queer and non-binary writer living in LA. Currently, they are the founder of the Luminaries Poetry Workshop, EIC, I needed to turn on my light here so I can see, at Cabaret Contributors Journal, poetry editor at Hooligan Magazine, a reader for Stone of Madness Press and Kissing Dynamite, and columnist at The Poetry Question. Their poems have appeared in CP Quarterly, Flypaper Lit, Rejection Letters, and others. They tweet at Sofia Fey Creates, and we are delighted to welcome Sophia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia Faye. Lately I've been reading a lot of my new stuff and a lot of my work that is funnier. And today I decided that I'm going to read some old things first and the hashtag new shit last. And none of it's going to be funny. So I'm not going to be funny tonight. I will still be gay, of course. Everything I do is gay, but it won't be as funny as it normally is. So I just want to give everyone that, because if you've seen any of my readings in the past 2 months, they've all been not depressing. So anyway, my first poem is called When You Encounter the Devil. This poem is after an Amy Nizuka Matatio, and it has an epigraph. The epigraph is as follows. As soon as you trust yourself, you will know how to live. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Faust, first part. When you encounter the devil, when you survive it, you have to let it die. Somewhere in you it will rot. Things may grow. Wrong things may grow too if you water them. Things will eat their way out of you. Things that crawl out of your mouth and head first to your truest love. When you encounter the devil, pull the death card. Peer into its flowers. They too come from the decompose. They decompose you. They feed, they lurch, they pedal your cheek. They carve or caress. It's up to you. When you encounter the devil, it's up to you. This next poem is my first quarantine poem. It's called I Can't Focus Right Now, but Who Can Blame Me? There's no way to throw his days out the window, but shouldn't I be listening to footsteps? Poets translate intricate details and immortalize them on the page. Well, at least I used an ampersand. That's another thing. I'm not supposed to say I this much, but I need to be an I right now. I'm just trying to keep it together, and shouldn't I be outside listening to footsteps? I have checked my phone twice now already. How am I ever to be an academic again? I love my absolutes, and I had breakfast with myself today for the first time in months. Instead of the straight from bed to running every day like a boxing match, these days feel less like sport, more ripple in a still lake at twilight. Logged so many hours of missing you, I have to be getting close now. I learned something today too. My cat, she's not just scratching the wall, she's trying to climb. These are my two newest poems, and I decided to read them last because I always read my new poems first, but today we're shaking shit up. So these are new. They are separate poems, but they're companion poems. This one's called 2:43 a.m. A girl slides into my DMs offering sweet gifts or the blood of my enemies. I wake from another dream of you. My letters and journal have been trifled through, and somehow I knew it was by your hand. I call a useless detective to find evidence of you. You show up, and the detective is confused. It took place in the loft of my new house, but not exactly it, and for this, I thank my subconscious. The useless man is still searching, and you wrap arms around me. For 1 second, my ribs unfurl, their wings buzz. I break you off and tell you I'm rid of you, and you say you'll never be done with me. This one's called At 2:45, I Consider the Blood of My Enemies. I am a child getting sick each day again. When I mouth you, the air becomes poison. Won't speak you or write you by hand, but I type you when I must. A great nuclear evil. I'm speaking of the triangular bayonet, a weapon designed to leave a hole in the shape of a triangle, a wound the body doesn't know how to heal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. so next up, we have Jason B. Crawford. Okay, so Jason B. Crawford, they/he, was born in Washington, D.C., raised in Lansing, Michigan. Their debut chapbook collection, Summertime Fine, is out through Variant Lit. Their second chapbook, Twerkable Moments, I love that title, is due from Paper Nautilus Press in 2021. And their debut full-length Year of the Unicorn Kids will be out in 2022 from Sundress Publications. And so we welcome Jason B. Crawford.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm gonna just read 3 poems, all pretty new. It's funny, I never read anything now from any of the manuscripts that are coming out for some reason. But hey, new pandemic, new me, I guess. So this is called And Because We Didn't Want Our Fathers to Know. And because we didn't want our fathers to know, we hushed into the school yellow locker rooms, ran across 3 highways of basketball chatter, while men screamed at each other over the court's jamboree of screeching new shoes about the breaking of rules or laws or the morality of hunger. We kept quiet in the final row of benches, asking ourselves to bare quivering palms, the soft beast flicked on by our tongues, the teaching, oh, the teaching of being young, simple wanting. What anger we can stuff our jaws with, paused every time footsteps cross paths with the door farthest from us, bent our bodies into silver faucets that ran as long as we were even allowed. There was this one time we were almost caught, the taste of your flesh still fresh in my mouth, but we harbored ourselves quickly to avoid suspicion from my father's friend. After that, every time you tell me no one was in here, no one would find us, no one would even care. I've been wrong before. I will be again. To appease my poet sister and also Sophia, I'm going to read a very small section of Debt. So Debt is a long poem that I wrote. It's a very long poem I wrote, but I'm just going to read a very small section of it. And we're going to start because it could start anywhere. We're going to start from 3. Debt 3. I only understood violence by way of compromise. How I find the pike driven through the bottom of my gloss skull left displayed at the base of a man's bed. There are so many things I'm unsure of, including wrath, its debt to my skin. I think about grief. I've offered allowance space at my table, a good, warm meal. I'm not sure if I give it what it's owed, just what I think is due. I exchange my teeth for happiness and forget how to smile with my whole mouth. I forget the color of my glistening gums. Tell me to go and I'll go. I'm not sure why I am stuck here. I understand leaving, the creation of space between 2 bodies of wet salt. I think of the one meme of the fish late to work because Moses split the Red Sea to create safe passage for his people. I wonder what lovers were forever split in the act of saving. I wonder who searched on the other side of that chasm to find their love drowned or not to find them at all. If a wall fell between me and my love, I don't know if I'd climb it for him. I don't know if I trust a man not willing to leave. In 4th grade, I liked a boy so much that I only knew how to make fun of his shoes. A year later, the same boy kicked dirt in my eyes during recess and I thanked him. And oh, the simple I love you that would not suffice. I would gladly claw out my lover's heart and gift it to them. The violence of love on repeat. I ask, what is your favorite part of me? Take it for yourself and care for it like a wound you do not wish to heal. The boys are so wrong so often, especially about lust, especially when there is another boy involved learning their own mutant flesh. What is love? What is conquering the country of piled hands? What is all this sharing of what I have no right to own? I am who am I to deny someone the space on my tongue? Um, and this last poem I'm going to read in light of in light of Ma'Khia Bryant. I'm going to read this one. Uh, I continually state America is awful, and I will stand by that, especially for Black, Brown, and queer individuals. So I wrote a burning haibun for Ma'Khia, and this has never been my America. But me stating this again does nothing to add to this conversation had for my blood. It's worth. I could talk about every video clip of bodies rolling on pavement, skin smeared sidewalks, the hopscotch of our bones. But what would it do other than incite a riot in my stomach? I cannot claim to be a freedom fighter, a revolutionary, but I cling to their cause. I do believe in abolition, yet have never been a fan of sticking my own hands in their mud. Does this make me a bad Black? The type soft white palms have not warned their children about. All my white partners' parents loved me, even some far after our parting, which really just means none of them feared my skin. The Jupiter in my throat, a gas only poisoning me they say every time. It's so sad what happened to that boy. Just, do y'all have to keep looting? And all I could offer was a concerning grin, minstrel toothed and tame, awaiting a meal. And I don't really know what I'm waiting for other than what I could never recall being mine to begin with. A free, borderless land, no guns, housing and health care for all, a space for my niggas to be niggas. I'm sure on top of a mountain somewhere, there are a collection of us made God, and may I be so bold to say that their Black is allowed to crack in peace, in pieces into their hands of their loved ones who gust into a darkening red sky, and they all rest as stars. And by this, I mean they all get to rest. The living, the dead, their names never swirled on a baton of tongues. I might just be optimistic about what it could look like if we didn't know anything but the dark, didn't know why we reached for the light. This America again does nothing for my blood rolling on pavement. What would I claim to be revolutionary? Sticking my hands in the bad Black type all my white partners loved parting. None of them say it's sad what happened to that boy. Just keep looting. And I don't really know a free, borderless land. My niggas be niggas, collections that crack into pieces. The batons know anything dark. America, I warned you. All my niggas be dead names. We know why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Jason. Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Whew. Jason, is that one that I'm sorry, my brain is just completely blown apart by that. Is that in a collection that's already out and available, or is that in a forthcoming one?
It's in none. I actually wrote this last week, or like I wrote this directly after the incident. So this is like brand new.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. That was
It
an
is
insanely dumb question.
Oh no, it's fine. It comes out. It will be coming out in Bee Stung May 20th, so it will be available to May 20th. So
Oh, I would love it if you would put information about that in the chat room. That was just, wow, that was really something. Thank you for sharing that.
thank
That
you.
was something. Wow. And see, Lannie saw this happen to me last reading too. All right, so our next reader is Beth Gordon. Beth Gordon is a poet, mother, and grandmother currently living in Asheville, North Carolina. Her poetry has been published in Passages North, Eco Theo Review, Swim into the Void, Pigeonholes, Barren, Pithead Chapel, and others. She is the author of 2 published chapbooks, and her full-length collection, This Small Machine of Prayer, is forthcoming in 2021 from Kelsey Press. She is managing editor of Feral, a journal of poetry and art, and assistant editor of Animal Heart Press. And we welcome Beth Gordon.
Sure, make me follow Jason. That was amazing, Jason. I just want to give you all a heads up. I had my second COVID shot today, so I've been self-medicating for the pain all day, so I'm a little loopy. Let's see, what am I going to follow Jason with? All right, this is from my first collection, Morning Walk with Dead Possum, Breakfast, and Parallel Universe. A lot of my poems, just content warning, a lot of my poems deal with loss, specifically the loss of a granddaughter about 7 years ago. And so those themes run through most of my poems. And this is the title poem from that collection. Morning Walk with Dead Possum, Breakfast, and Parallel Universe. Freshly slaughtered by UPS truck, hungover driver, or the unnecessary text of my church-going neighbor reminding her husband to buy milk. It's what we always feared. The morning news in my ears said a body is found on the Metrolink track, unidentified. No further details to share, and I wonder if they share an expression. No maggots or crows have arrived, a tiny river of blood still flowing from the marsupial mouth. I missed the murder by seconds, her surprised soul rising in a confusion of gravel and faulty brakes, the hushed vanishing, steps ahead of mine. Had I not stopped to adjust my headphones, changed the podcast from Columbine to Vietnam, rounded this corner 2 minutes earlier, I would have witnessed the living thing, the conversion from mammal to rock. And I am aware of my refrigerator, of eggs I boiled for breakfast, of my other life, with chickens and dirt, an axe, an old tree stump, a lover, a plucking of feathers, my hands forever the hands of death, reminding me that I am not important. And neither is this day in the queue of days and corners, of decisions to behead hens or turn left instead of right, of gunfire speaking to me from a magical box, of bars and libraries where I have discussed the survival of consciousness, the way calendars tell lies with candle and rare orchids, how time cannot be weighed like an enlarged heart. And I step over the carcass without flinching and call you to say, I hate this time of year, knowing she is going to die on a Wednesday. The circle unbroken. There will be no photos of her on a carousel pony. The calliope music grinds like an unwanted journey. I will fall again on the emergency room floor and someone will hand me this ghost of a baby. And again, I will memorize her surprised expression, her petal mouth, and again, I will speak her name like a spell, like a question, like a life where everything matters, not at all. All right, Sophia, you set the stage for not being funny tonight. So I have a chapbook coming out in November from Variant Literature called called The Water Cycle, and all the poems are titled Hydrology. I'm going to read the last poem from this. I've been thinking a lot recently about what it means to be a mother and grandmother, and this is a poem I wrote a few years ago about being a gray-haired person. At the end of the bar, a younger woman speaks, buzzing with busyness, strawberry daiquiri in hand, and we grandmothers learned that she is firing 10 people tomorrow, is coordinating cardboard boxes to remove their belongings, and extra security, her blackish eyes swimming with the excitement of it all. We are not drinking pale wine, our tongues attuned to caramel-infused mezcal, single malt scotch, Japanese whiskey neat. There is nothing we have not tasted or imagined. Knowing that someone can disappear one day, their corpse found a year later in a dry riverbed, knowing the worst sound we heard today is landing gear, a reminder that we cannot stay in flight. We order another round, knowing absence has a shape, tastes more like bourbon than gin. It has a name, like a gray-haired incantation, too dangerous to put onto the page. All right. I'm gonna read another really cheery one. After not writing about my dead granddaughter for a while, last month I decided to write 21 poems in a collection that I'm calling Infant Obituary Template. Sorry. I told you I was a little loopy. Give me just a sec. All right. This one is called Icebox Transmission Template. The easy bake oven covered in soot, battery powered and uninformed. What can be wound can be rewound and fingerprinted. Please place this doll into the crib exactly as you did your child. Ignore the police officers who dial back your thermostat. They are sweating and homesick for mother's icebox lemon pie. Do not memorize badge numbers. Gather her seahorse, her comb, her shoestrings, her unflustered purple bear. Howl. Coyotes and neighborhood dogs will arrive and dig holes to the moon, bury broken radio parts that will never be unburied, translate all transmissions. Thank you.
So powerful, so powerful. And you know, I hope I'm not giving anybody the impression that you have to be cheery. Nobody has to be cheery. And if we didn't have poetry or any other literature or art or creative endeavor, what would we do with these feelings? What would we do with them? So thank you for sharing that. Those were absolutely lovely, lovely. And I hope, and it's a reminder to all of our readers that please, please, I encourage you, share the information about your current and forthcoming books, where people can find them, in the chat box. We want to make sure that that folks can find this work out there easily, because it needs to be out. It needs to be out here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Our next reader is Lannie. And you know what, Lannie? You gave me a tutorial on your name, and the last 3 readers have completely blown every ounce of like thinkability out of my brain. I can't even. So
Stabile.
Stabile,
Yeah.
Stabile. Thank you, thank you. I'm like, she told me like 3 times how to say
You were
that.
so close too. I think it was just that you stammered. You're like Stabile.
Stabile.
You did great.
Thank you, thank you. Lannie Stabile, and I do have to give her an extra round of applause tonight. She did reach out to me and say, I have so many friends who have great books coming out. Can we do like a poetry thing? So thank you for bringing all of these wonderful poets together tonight for MoCo Underground. It's a really special evening, and I appreciate it. So Lannie Stabile, she, her, is the winner of Outright's 2020 chapbook competition in poetry. Congratulations. The winning chapbook, Strange Furniture, is out with Neon Hemlock Press. She is also a back-to-back finalist for the 2019-2020 and 2020-2021. I can't believe I nailed that one. Glass Chapbook Series, and back-to-back semifinalists for the Button Poetry 2018 and 2019 chapbook contests. Whew. Find her on Twitter at Lannie Stabile.
Thank you. Whew. So I'm going to read solely from my new book, which is Good Morning to Everyone Except Men Who Named Their Dogs Zeus. And it's dropping in May. I do not have a link for you yet, but if you follow me on Twitter, I will drop that soon. I'm so excited. Just to give you a little bit of background, it's I like to say that it's at the intersection of sexual assault, so trigger warning there, Greek mythology, and men who are obsessed with other powerful men. So here we go. God help us, another douchebag has named his dog Zeus. A puppy nips at his owner's fingers and is not reprimanded because dogs will be dogs. The gangly puppy, 2 large paws, soon will fuck the neighborhood bitches. He can smell the heat between their legs and does not yet care to master his senses. And the puppy swells into full-grown mutt who rejects commands like wait and no, but will roll over an unconscious body behind a dumpster and come. This one is called The Plural of Cyclops is Cyclopes. A girl can carry her drink to the bathroom, or a friend can guard it within her wool. She can spot and uproot red flags like a row of Washington apples. A girl can call an Uber or substitute water for undiluted wine. A girl can travel in a flock or tuck keys between her knuckles like Hellenistic soldiers. She can even master Krav Maga and the myth of prevention. A girl can occupy a bar stool all night long with a vigilant eye on her glass, but when the safe kit is processed in the morning, police will insist there's nobody to blame. All right, so I've never actually performed this one out loud at all. So wish me luck. Michigan Tech University Winter Festival 2006. My favorite trope is when Shy Girl is uncharacteristically chugging beer at 8 a.m. frat party, but attends school 500 miles away, so has like no one but her best friend to answer to. When she's virgin, but hat tricking with nerdiest bros, including moppy-headed Joe who sleeps in chapter house closet. When she quiz bowls, but also keg stands. When she is historically cautious, but presently wasted. When she grew up ponytail, glasses, low self-esteem, but also has boobs. But also has boobs against two hot girls in the kitchen, boys pulling out phones and cocks, making the best of the moment. And the last one I'll read is actually the last poem in the book, and it is very plainly titled Letter to a Rapist. July 4th, 2007. Dear Z, you are the long, slender neck of a swan, contorting at angles that could stuff a body in a suitcase. A fly in the jaws of a thunderstruck god. A shriek through the sacred mountains of an upper middle class home. You are a king and a tyrant, quiet hand creeping beneath the covers at a sleepover, eagle tapping at the window, begging to enter to carry childhood away. You are a rowdy midsummer festival, nectar served in solo cups, the smooth red sides echoing maiden blood. A pool, a hot tub, a looming throne, sky blue wallpaper retreating from the mattress, a casualty shrinking to the size you have made her feel. You are the armored migraine, springing forth, fully nightmare, a monster beneath the belly of a bed. You are a flash flood, drowning calves in the field, a storm unseen in the clouds. The kind of lightning that keeps a girl awake for 20 years, wondering what it is about her body that calls to all the winds. L. Thank you. Putting my cool glasses back on.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait for these books. Thank you, thank you. That was so amazing. Oh my gosh. And really for only having read that the first time tonight out loud, the voice was awesome. Really inhabited it.
Just trying something new.
I loved it. I loved it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so our last reader of the evening is Elizabeth Hazen. Elizabeth Hazen is a poet, essayist, and teacher. Her work explores issues of addiction, mental health, and sexual trauma, as well as the restorative power of love and forgiveness. Her poems have appeared in Best American Poetry, Shenandoah, Southwest Review, the Three Penny Review, and other journals. Allen Squire Publishing, yay, released her first book, Chaos Theories, in 2016. Girls Like Us is her second collection. She lives in Baltimore with her family. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure to hear everyone read. I'm a little intimidated, actually. Although, Lannie, I think we share common subjects in our poems. So, yeah, maybe I definitely connected with those last ones. Start with one from my first book that took me a really long time to write. I saw a girl running down the street in her underwear, and I knew I wanted to write about it. And it took me kind of years to figure out. I think it's a poem about being a woman, getting older, visibility, invisibility. So this is called Underwear Girl. The way in movies people move through ghosts, you power straight through me, underwear girl. trailing mascara and cartoon swirls, your cotton panties pink as bubblegum. A boy in a muscle shirt chases you. Come back. He is young, embarrassed, maybe in love with you, maybe just in love with the way your body moves, all passion and mystery and control. Behind him, a woman waves a pair of pants, crying, "Wait, don't go." How they all want you, underwear girl. I know your fury feels too big for clothes. No pair of designer jeans could ever contain your rage. You think if you keep running, it means you will arrive somewhere. I want you to be right, but I know what burns you up inside, and that fire can't keep you warm. It is November. Your feet are turning blue. Underwear girl, you can't stop time or cellulite or regret. Can't deny entropy, elastic waistbands, tedium. Those who play chase now will fall back, give up, pursue other ambitions on other streets. And what will you do with your rage then, underwear girl? Will you squeeze it into control top pantyhose, swallow it like benzos, take it out on a husband who never saw it coming? Underwear girl, my thighs once looked like that, toned and tense to fight the forces of evil. We all rage against something, feel pressed for time and money, exit strategies. No one can run forever. Underwear girl, there are things you may not understand yet. If you would just see me, I could tell you so many things. So I wasn't sure what I was going to read tonight, and I'm overwhelmed by everything everyone else read, but I do in my book that just came out, there are a lot of poems about sexual abuse and alcoholism. So since it's been such a fun, cheery evening, I'm gonna maybe read one or two of those. This is called Dictation. After days of heavy drinking, blackout is swift and total. Mexico, the moon so huge and blank, a hole of perfect darkness punched out. You wake up aching. Sand plasters your left ear. How like a doll you were, how yielding. I could have done anything I wanted. With a ragged fingernail, you scrape the sand that cakes your ear. Your thirst dictates silence. Anything I wanted, but I decided not to. Decisive, incisive, he decided. And are you not the one who wanted him to stiffen up the drinks? Are you not the one who fell? But he decided. You practice arguments on your own body. A different voice repeating, unclamp your tongue. I'm going to read two more. This one is called Game Rules. In the rules you failed to learn from articles in women's magazines, from your mother's loose-lipped friends, those pseudo-aunts who snuck you schnapps and cigarettes, reveled as you revealed your indiscretions, or from two fast girls who disappeared mid-year, birthing bastards 3 states west of anywhere you'd been. The gist was don't admit the things you need. Back then, you balked at such directives, though in school you went along with rules, slicing right into the porcine heart, the only girl who didn't retch, so eager to see its rooms, bloodless and gray, as if those spaces held the recklessness that you could not contain. Muscled walls, drained of mystery, labeled in textbook diagrams, atrium, ventricle, aortic valve. But you remember nothing now, save the formaldehyde's choking fumes. And the last one I'll read is the first poem in the collection. I'm an English teacher. I'm actually taking a year off after this nightmare of COVID, but this poem is sort of structured almost like as a lesson I would do on literary devices. It's called Devices. Rhyme relies on repetition. Pink drink, big wig, tramp stamp, rank skank. Alliteration 2. Peter Piper's pickled peppers, silly Sally's sheep. Silly trumping smart because the L's create consonants. Assonance repeats vowel sounds. Hot bod, dumb slut, frigid bitch. Even his line, girl, will have a fine time. Or her refusals, no, don't. In metaphor, we compare two things. Suppose a man calls a woman fox. We understand this is not literal. Same goes for pig, dog, chick. Same goes for octopus, as in his hands were all over me. Metonymy relies on associations. Suits, skirts, that joke about the dishwasher. If it stops working, slap the bitch. Synecdoche reduces a thing to a single part. If he wants pussy, by which we must infer he wants a woman. We've been called so many things that we are not. We startle at the sound of our own names. Thank you.
That was wonderful. I'm so glad you were able to join us, Elizabeth. That was fantastic. Oh my gosh. So good. And I see, Lannie, is this a review that you wrote, or is this just a review that you read?
It's a review I wrote of Liz's book. I absolutely adored it.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
I did not make that connection. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm putting it all together. That's amazing. Thank you.
These were wonderful and necessary and honest and true. And I thank every one of you for being here tonight to share your beautiful words with us. These were amazing. Can we have everybody mics off for just a second and just do a little hooray for those? All so wonderful. Awesome. So wonderful.
Thank you.
So I am not a poet. I write a lot of different things, but I do have a tribute to a poem, and it is a funny thing because I feel like sometimes I'm uncomfortable at the end of a night with so much to think about, and that's my own thing. So I usually do kind of bring something that's funnier to share. And so I don't know, does anybody besides me, speaking of older and gray-haired, does anybody remember the poem The Duel by Eugene Field? Perhaps you might remember it if I said The Gingham Dog and the Calico Cat. Well, so this is a really old poem, and because it's in the common domain, and I remembered it from when I was a kid, I wrote something about it, and I think there's an audience member who maybe actually might remember what I wrote about this. So here's my thing. It's called Ithaca Kitty's Got Beef. Have you seen this crap? Well, just in case you haven't, The Duel by that rat bastard Eugene Field. The gingham dog and the calico cat, side by side on the table sat. 'Twas 12:30, and what do you think? Nor one nor other had slept a wink. The old Dutch clock and the Chinese plate appeared to know, as sure as fate, there was going to be a terrible spat. I wasn't there. I simply state what was told to me by the Chinese plate. The gingham dog went bow, wow, wow. And the calico cat replied, meow. The air was littered an hour or so with bits of gingham and calico, while the old Dutch clock in the chimney place up with its hands before its face, for it always dreaded a family row. Now mind, I'm only telling you what the old Dutch clock declares is true. The Chinese plate looked very blue and wailed, oh dear, what shall we do? But the gingham dog and the calico cat wallowed this way and tumbled that, employing every tooth and claw in the awfulest way you ever saw. And oh, how the gingham and calico flew. Don't fancy I exaggerate. I got my news from the Chinese plate. Next morning, where the two had sat, they found no trace of dog or cat, And some folks think unto this day that burglars stole that pair away. But the truth about the cat and pup is this: they ate each other up. Now, what do you really think of that? The old Dutch clock, it told me so, and that is how I came to know. The end. What a bunch of bullshit. First off, I had a name, people. Say it with me: Caesar Grimalkin. Second, anyone that really wanted to find me would have by now, witness protection or no. And thirdly, after 95 years, who cares if I bumped off some stupid gingham dog? I'm not saying I did. It's just time to set the record straight, because let me tell you, I've got grievances. Stop calling me the calico cat. I'm not calico. Do you see these balls? Yeah, only 1 in 1,000 calico cats is male. The rest are all female, and I'm not the one, okay? You want accuracy? I'm a gray fucking tabby, 100% male, 100% of the time. I wasn't anywhere near the table that night. If that stupid Eugene had just asked the rocking chair, he'd have known that's where my ass was planted all night. I'd coughed up a bad hairball after dinner right on the old lady's carpet, and I was feeling pretty crappy. So no way I'd have hauled my keister up onto the table just to harass some dopey dog with nothing better to do all day than bark at leaves and disturb everyone's naps. The old Dutch clock and the Chinese plate? More bullshit. Those were your witnesses? Listen, that old Dutch clock couldn't keep time in a basket. And as for the Chinese plate, ha! If that plate's Chinese, I'm the next emperor. You should check the provenance on that bit of porcelain. Those two had it in for me from day one, when the curtain rod somehow came down and shattered the old Dutch clock's face and knocked the plate off its ledge. Hey, it could have been the wind. You want a reliable witness? Talk to the umbrella stand. He knows. He's just smart enough not to be blabbing all the time like that clock and plate, who I hope are listening and who I wish nothing but the best. Oh, and meow? Really? That's how Eugene thought I sounded? Lousy son of a bitch. Who do you think helped write his columns? The clock? Meow. I've pissed on better writing. And another thing, when Eugene said employing every tooth and claw, he must have been talking about somebody else, because now wait for it, you're going to love this. That was the same day the old man took me in and had me declawed. How was I doing any kind of clawing without my fucking claws? Can't explain that one, can you? So then Eugene says maybe it was burglars. But then what about the silver or the old lady's jewelry? You think a gang of burglars breaks in and just leaves all that? Decides the most valuable thing they could take would be that chuckle-headed, yappy-ass waist of cotton? Jesus, who helped Eugene make this shit up? Because I know it wasn't me. And then there's that last bit, that maybe it wasn't burglars after all, but the dog and I somehow ate each other up. How is it remotely possible, even just from a standpoint of pure basic physics? Did I eat the dog? And then what? He chewed his way out of me? And then what? I ate him again? You can see why I'm confused on this point, can't you? Clearly, Eugene was not playing with a full deck when he wrote his account. But as God is my witness, I did not eat any part of that gingham-covered galoot, and I sure as hell wouldn't have let that idiot get his mouth anywhere near my shiny gray 100% male tabby ass. That whack job ate his own shit on the regular. Think I would have let him put his mouth on me? Never happened, my friend. Just do us both a favor, okay? Read Eugene's last bit again. They found no trace of dog or cat. Well, here I am talking to you, but where's the fucking dog? Never found him, did they? Not even a shred of gingham. Well, I've got a big shocker for you. I know where that fluffy little fucker is. I've known all along. Hell no, I can't tell you where he is. He swore me to secrecy, you know, said if I ever told anyone what really happened, he'd come after me. Yeah. Oh, what, you don't believe me now? Why would I lie after 95 years? You should go ask the clock in that Chinese plate. They had plenty to say when they talked to Eugene. Maybe they'll change their tunes now I'm back. Huh, you can't find them either. Isn't that strange? Well, I swear, I don't know nothing about that. That was my contribution for the night. I hope it made you laugh, because as important as it is to be able to cry and mourn and grieve, we got to laugh too. And I'm really, really glad that you all showed up tonight so that we could do all of that together as a group of artists and poets and creatives. And thank you to our audience members. And now I am going to throw it open to if anybody from the audience has any questions they'd like to ask. If you don't, I have a generic question prepared, which tells you that I don't know who I am today because I actually prepared. So if any audience questions, anybody want to ask something of our poets tonight? Poets, you can feel free to say, I'm not taking any questions because I can't. But if you want to answer questions, great. Yeah, Lannie, you've got the right sunglasses for this. All right. Well, so what I'd like to do is just kind of ask you all to chime in on the same question then. I would like to know, what is, if you can name just one, what is your all-time favorite poem from childhood? Because that poem, believe it or not, and that poem is a really old one, but I can remember it was in a collection that I had when I was a child. And I remember my mom reading it to me, The Duel. By Eugene Field. And I'm not 95 years old, even though that poem is, but I think everybody had stuff that they enjoyed reading when they were kids. So if you want to take turns and kind of tell me, what's the first poem that you kind of remember reading from when you were a kid? Chime in at will.
My father was loved to read us poetry. He recited things from memory. And I can't recite it for you, but the name of the poem is Invictus. Maybe somebody knows of it. There is an English teacher. Maybe Liz knows what it is, but anyway, language was always something important growing up. So poetry, and then later in my life, I've read a lot of poetry.
Thank you so much, Susan. Invictus is a great poem. I think one of my sons had to actually do a project on that in high school. Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. I started writing poetry in 6th grade. And I remember I'm sure it wasn't the first poem I ever read because, hello, Shel Silverstein, love that guy. But it's the first one that really stuck with me. And it's Ode to la Tortilla by Gary Soto. And there's just this line where butter is running from the tortilla down his forearm. And I mean, that was 20 years ago now, and it's still in there. And it gave me enough oomph to start writing my own stuff.
That's so funny. Mine, one of my early ones was Gary Soto, Oranges.
Oranges, okay.
In school, and I teach it now because I loved it so much.
Anybody else? Any of our readers?
Yeah.
I have an answer. Oh no, please, Beth.
Yeah, mine isn't anything as literary as everybody else's answers. I grew up not in a house of poets, but in a music-loving house, and I used to listen to Casey Kasem's Top 40 in my bedroom every Sunday night. And in 1973, the #1 hit was Seasons in the Sun by Terry Jacks, which was actually written by a poet named Rod McEwen. And I hiked myself down to the bookstore and got Rod McEwen's poetry. But yeah, Seasons of the Sun, check it out.
I remember that. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun. So you guys didn't know I was going to sing too. You're welcome. Anybody else?
I graduated in 1973 from high school, Beth, so we're probably around the same age.
When I was 12, I forgot to do my book report for my first year of middle school. It was wonderful. And just didn't have a book the day before. And so my mom gave me one of the Stephen King books she had in her bookshelf. And it was this book called Do McKee. And in the middle of the book, they have a poem. That's the first time I ever liked a poem. It was Animals by Frank O'Hara. Yeah. Ever since then, it was one of those things that just kind of opened me up and go, wow, this is an excellent form of writing.
Wonderful.
I read a lot of Dr. Seuss when I was little, and that would probably be like the first. And then I dived into Rita Dove and Emily Dickinson, who are like my next. But I have a little Lorax tree. But the Lorax was like my favorite by far when I was younger.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny that you like the Lorax, because I wrote something that this week, actually, I wrote something called But What Do I Tell the Lorax? Because my neighbors had removed some trees this week and I was very sad. So what do I tell the Lorax? I have the Lorax on the brain this week.
I had actually never read the Lorax growing up. I really only knew like the Cat in the Hat, and I watched the movie probably 6 months ago, and I was like, why is this so sad? Oh my God. So good. It's so good.
Honestly, my favorite Dr. Seuss book was the sleep book, because that actually, I would read that every night to try to fall asleep. And it worked, because I was probably, I don't know, like 9 or 10 years old before I actually made it all the way through to the end of the book before I, fell asleep. And I felt very accomplished at that point. That's a good one. I like that one. Awesome. Anybody else?
So I actually had to look mine up. Because I couldn't remember the title, and surprisingly I found it. We used to have this little poetry Valentine's Day book, and my favorite poem out of it, which anyone that knows me, this is very out of character for me, is I love you more than applesauce. So yeah, that was my favorite poem up until I was like 10. So
Gosh, do you remember who the author is on that? That sounds really familiar.
Jack something. I'm trying to get the good picture where it says Jack Perlewski.
Jack Perlewski. That sounds really familiar.
So the book itself was compiled by Jack Perlewski. Or Perlewski is it's his book, and then it was pictures by Yossi something. I can't pronounce these names.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Anybody else want to share what their favorite poetry was from when they were kids, or any book that just kind of turned you on to writing? Okay, so everybody's going to be shy. So let me look at my next question.
Oh, I have a couple I wanted to share. Seamus Heaney's Digging is one of the most beautiful and just gorgeous poems. And I studied it when I was a student in Ireland in 75, and I had never heard a poem like that.
What about it did it for you?
There's a line, the first line, I don't have it memorized, but it's the image is a pen snub as a gun. And the power of those words together, and what it's about is the images are about turf cutters. In Ireland, they cut the turf in the fields and they make brick. They're basically like bricks that dry out and they use as fuel. But, and I was over there, and I think it really it had a big impact on me. It's in Death of a Naturalist, if anyone wants to read it.
Thank you again, Susan. that sounds like something I'll have to pick up. I do like Seamus Heaney. Very, very talented.
It's his best poem in a lot of people's opinion.
Leads me to another question. I'd love to hear, because Susan had mentioned about, an image. What role does imagery or like visual arts, anything, what role does that play as you're coming up with your poems? And I'll address that one to the readers who are sharing tonight. So. Anybody? I used to be a high school teacher, so I'm not afraid to call on people.
I was just thinking about this tweet that made its rounds this week, and it said something about like, poets, why don't you just live in the moment instead of comparing things to the moon and trees and stuff? And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, if I have to live in the moment, then I'm not going to have my anxiety. How do you even do that? And it was just really, I would love to not be anxious, but it's really important for me to compare one thing to another. I can't just look and be like, that's the sky. No, the sky is an open book, and there are words in the book, and the words speak to, that was garbage poetry right there, but you know what I mean.
I love it.
I feel very strongly.
I love it. I love it. Anybody else? Are you influenced by something visual when you're working?
I think like poetry inherently has roots in imagery, just because if you're not seeing something and you're not painting something, it's hard for a poem to be super compelling to an audience. I think that I have some poems that are just me plainly talking about something and the speaker is going off, but in general, I think the fun part about poetry is seeing how you could take an image and see what it turns into for someone else.
I love that answer. That's great. What can you turn it into for somebody else? That's a great explanation.
I feel like also poetry is, for me, it's a way of sort of, I don't know, making connections, and a lot of those, how can I say this? I don't know, imagery plays a part in that. I mean, metaphor plays a part in that. And then also sometimes I'll just have a dream that has like a really strong visual image, and that I just have to figure out what it means. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't see how, I didn't see the tweet, but
Yeah, so I'm thinking
yeah,
about
like why have art at all? I don't know.
the girl in the underwear poem. Like, if you
right,
weren't
it's
a
like,
poet,
I knew that meant something, and I had to figure out what it
yeah.
was.
So you did the work to unravel it, and you're like, okay, what does this really mean to me? And that's so important. I
Yeah, it's a
can't
puzzle.
imagine looking at something and just going, she's in her underwear, cool, and then moving on. I just can't.
Yeah.
Not to like put her on the spot, but Taylor, who's in the room, has an amazing poem called Yellow Dress that I continually keep coming back to, about it's about the Beyonce Hold Up video, but it's so much more than that. And it easily paints the picture of what you're seeing within this video while unraveling what Beyonce is most likely feeling within this video as well. And I mean, and that in itself, like if you've never seen that video, which I mean, of course I have, because I have Beyonce pins on my jacket. But like, if you had never seen this video, you still could most likely see very clearly what that video was portraying through Taylor's words. And I mean, if you're not able to do that on the page, then I mean, it's kind of flat poetry, and it's not really anything that. I hate to say this, but it's kind of, I don't lean into academic poetry as much. I think, yeah, that's where I'm gonna stop there before.
You just made me think, Jason, of your poem. with the line of where a white girl is twerking and it's like her butt is a flat paper bag, or is that it? Like, I think about that and I'm like, how else would I know what my butt looks like when I try to twerk? Jason tells me. I don't know. It's such a good poem. You guys, you have to hear him read it. It's so good.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been so much. It's been so much. Like, I'm glad that we were able to share some really serious things. And I'm glad that we were also able to find some time to just kind of talk about the craft and about the inspiration and the work behind it. And also have some good laughs too, because that's always a nice way to seal the community. So we're going to start wrapping up here. I think Michael has an announcement from the museum regarding upcoming programs. So I would encourage all of you who attended the reading tonight to look up these wonderful readers if you haven't already. And readers, if you send me links, and I'm going to follow you all on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So put your links up for your works, and I'll make sure that those are posted on Montgomery County Underground Reading Series social media, which you can find that on my website, which is really easy to remember, justscribbling.com. It has a page for the MoCo Underground Reading Series. You can find me there. Wow, thank you very much for an extraordinary evening. Indeed, a light in the spring. You're all amazing. Welcome to the MoCo Underground community. Thank you, Lannie, for getting together all these poets. And thank you, all of the readers, for sharing your beautiful, beautiful words this evening. It was quite an experience, and I'm grateful for all of you and all of your work. So thank you, thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Michael now. He has a brief announcement from the museum, and then we'll be signing off for the evening. So stay well, stay safe, and keep writing.